Let's head over the bench and take a look at the pods that we're going to be using to replace these, as well as take a look at the speakers that we're going to be putting in. This is the factory driver's side pod. That's that top screw, bottom screw, the screw on the side that you have to remove, and the body control module. Inside of it is the 4 we keep talking about. It's a 3-hole 4. It's actually mid-bass. It sounds pretty good. So trying to find an aftermarket 4-inch that performs like this, we haven't done it yet. That means we're just going to say, okay, no. And we're going to use these. These are the Metra JP1014. It comes with factory speaker plugs, as well as 2 pods, and a lengthy instruction to kind of walk you through the process that we just showed you to get that dash apart. So if you were following along, you're like, wait, what? The instructions here will probably help you a little better. Grabbing the driver's side pod, we can compare that to our factory pod. Same locations as far as screws go. And then on the back side of this, you'll notice there's 3 added screw points located along here. And these are so you can remove this module and attach it onto the back of that. You'll also notice these holes here. These are not ports. They're so that you can unplug this factory cable out of the box, put it in here, and then plug this into what would normally be on the other side of that. It comes with the passenger's pod as well. One of the things we like to do to this box, because it is very plasticky, is cover it in sound treatment. And there's 2 ways you can do it. You can do it on the outside, you can do it from the inside. And we do a kind of a combination of both. The reason why is that there's all these holes along here for different size speakers depending on what you're installing. And if you don't cover those, well, you're gonna get air leaks. And it's gonna whistle and go in the dash, and it's audible. I'm gonna get this over to Fernando so that he can start the process of adding the sound treatment to this box. Let's take a look at the speakers we're gonna install in these. These are the Rockford Power Series 6.5s, model number T2652-S. When you open them up, comes with the instruction manual. Very helpful instruction manual, by the way. Definitely thumb through this and take a look at what is inside. It does an explanation of all the bits and pieces that this speaker set comes with. You'll notice right here on the top, we have the big passive crossovers. One of the unique features about these passive crossovers is they are biampable. They have attenuation for the tweeter, 0 plus or minus 2, and they have on-axis, off-axis switch depending on where the tweeter is going to go. And there again, if you'd like to know more about that, check the owner's manual. 2 of those. 2 of the metal tweeters that this kit comes with. These are aggressive speakers, guys. There's some tweeter brackets in it as well. We're going to use some of these for the pieces we're going to make to go up into the dash. Pull it out. Mid-bass. And this is the big guy here. Stamped steel basket, gigantic magnet on the back. This thing is huge. These are heavy. We have a metal pole piece here in the center. Cone is made out of a resin, butyl rubber surround. It has the unique Rockford shape to it that they are known for. These are just big bad boy speakers. Power handling these is like 200 watt, 4 ohm set. We love these things for Jeeps. If you're gonna be rocking them with the doors off, the top off, whatever, these have no problem getting up in your face and reminding you that you have a badass stereo in your car. The one caveat to this is that they do have these big crossovers, which there's no place to put these up in the dash. They're going to have to go down by the amplifier, which means we are going to be running wires up to the tweeters. It just happens. One last thing, these speakers do come with grills, which can be really helpful for a lot of installations, specifically in the back when we do the T1s. We are going to need a grill to cover that. The nice thing about these grills is they do have screw locations that come through the front, as opposed to something that twists on or uses some form of butyl to hold in place. Anytime you mount anything like that upside down, you run the risk of the grill constantly falling off. You're not going to experience that with the Power Series line. This is the driver's side pod, all set and ready to get its speaker put into it. As you just watched Fernando painstakingly put sound treatment all inside of this housing, making sure to cover up all of these holes. He put all the sound treatment along the inside. Because this is the driver's side, it has the module that attached to the back. One thing you do have to keep in mind, it comes with these long 7mm screws. They're too long, they will poke through the housing. Switch it out for something that is more like a 1/2 inch to attach. He removed the factory speaker plug and easily plugged it back into here so that we can reuse it on our new speaker. This pod is made for a 6 and a 6.5. When we first took a look at it, it had these little brackets on the inside. They are removable, and he has removed them because the Rockford that we are using is a much bigger speaker. This is a true 6.5. This pod will work on a 6 or a 6.5. One of the nice things about the Rockford is it does have foam on the back of it. If your speaker does not have foam on the back of it, make sure you put a foam gasket around here so that you don't get air leakage. You will get air leakage if you don't put some kind of a gasket on this. Now he can just reattach this, and we'll take a look at it with the speaker done. This guy is ready to go into the car. One of the cool things about these Rockford speakers is how many screw holes they have. Fernando, being the excessive person he is, if you give him 8 screw locations, he's gonna put 8 screws in it. This guy is mounted in there so well, it's really awesome. One thing to keep in mind when you're picking the speakers for these Jeep pods is how thick the speaker is. As you can see, this thing comes out a good 3/8 of an inch, and where that is going to come into play is on the passenger side. There is going to be some work we're going to need to do into the passenger side of the car in order to get these things to get in there nice and snugly and not worry about it getting damaged. But when we get to that side of the car, we'll show you what we mean, and Fernando will show you what you need to do to remedy that so that it goes in there nice and safe. The next thing I need to get ready for Fernando is the tweeters to go up in the top of the dash. This little guy here is what comes from the factory, and this is what most people complain about, is these things sound very lifeless. And there's some solutions for that, which we do actually have a video out, and that's one of the easiest upgrades you can do to your Jeep or Gladiator to make sound better, and that is just swap these out for a different set of speakers that actually has a tweeter. These are also 8 ohm, so by putting just a 4 ohm speaker in there, it comes alive and sounds a lot better. That's not what we're going to be doing in this one. We're going to be replacing it with these loud tweeters here. These are the T2 TSs that come in the set. One of the nice things about this tweeter though is you can actually buy it as a standalone if you want. In that parts bag that we looked at when we unboxed the speakers, it has a bunch of cool stuff in it. One is this little angle mount here. We're not going to need that. We need these two guys here. This is designed to mount underneath, and this is designed to mount on the top. And what it does is it sandwiches into the mount that you're going to make. There's a bag of screws that screws through here into this bolt on the back. Makes it nice and tight. The other thing you need is one of these two guys here. One is brushed, one is shiny, and this will click over the top here to finish locking the tweeter into this mount. We need this piece of plastic here though in order to do that. And there's a couple different ways you can do it depending on what you have access to. There is a manufacturer that makes this that you can just buy this plastic and put the tweeter in. One of them is like the worst idea ever, but unfortunately we see it a lot, and that is where somebody just removes this speaker from the center here, glues the tweeter down into it, and puts it back into the car. The most popular way to do this is just make a new bracket, and for that either a 1/4 or 1/8 inch plastic cutting board, something like that, and a router, you can make a bracket for that. This is a scrap piece of 1/4 inch blown PVC and some really short screws. Attach it onto it just like this so you can hold it and it won't fall off. Next thing you're going to need is a router and some form of a flush trim bit. We get these from Mobile Solutions. This is their Mac Daddy 4 bearing version. A double bearing would be fine, but you do need something that is more than 1 bearing because there is a gap here that you're going to need to make sure that you hit. Let's go over to the router and I'll show you the next step. Push trim bit is mounted into our router table. First thing you need to do anytime using a router table is adjust the height. This has the 4 bearing in it, which just makes my life a little bit easier. Lock it into place. And just like that, we have a mount that we can use. You don't have a big expensive router table like this. Let's just say you might have one of these cool battery operated routers. These things are awesome. Mobile Solutions does offer 2 new mounts for those routers. This is the X router. This has a lot of neat things you can do with it. One of them is, it is the exact same size as this piece here, so it can sit inside of a table and you can have yourself a router station. It can also be used like this. This is the mini animal. It has side pieces here that come off. You can make it sit just like this and router these out. Either one of these two would be an awesome addition, and they're relatively inexpensive. That means you can get into something like this and have a awesome router table, but be battery operated that you can take anywhere you want. Let's head back over to the bench. We'll take a closer look at what we just made.